Hey guys, what's up? This is Andrew Price here from blenderguru.com. Just finishing off what we started last week, which is the high-rise apartment building. Now, last week I showed you how to model it, and in this tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to apply lighting, materials, and basically just producing the final render that you can give to the client. So what you're seeing here is the final result there, basically, this is the sort of thing we're going to be applying. So I've just got a lot of lamps there and some materials as well. So let's kick over now into what we had last week. So this is where we left off. We had the basically just the finished model there with a few placeholder materials. So I'll show you first of all the materials. So we last time we made the glass like a blue color. Glass doesn't actually have a color in real life, so I'm going to set that as the default gray. I'm also going to turn the specularity for that down to 0, and of course I'm also going to turn on transparency. Okay, and I'm going to enable ray tracing transparency, and I'm going to set the alpha value for that down to 0. And I'm also going to enable mirror just to give it a little bit of reflection from the sky and things like that. I'm going to set to a really low amount, so a 0.08 reflectivity amount. And one other thing, just as a quick tip, if you go into the object settings over here and you enable transparency, you can see that in the 3D viewport, it's now made that material transparent. And what it will do is it'll basically take this alpha value here, and you can see as I drag it across, it changes it in the 3D viewport. So that's just a quick little tip I just thought I'd share with you there. Now the other thing is the main material we've got for the whole building. That's this white wall material. So it's the material that's on the outside here, and it's the same material as what's on the indoor as well. Now you can basically leave all the settings as default, except we're going to set the specularity to 0, and the main one you need to remember is to enable receive transparent. The reason for that is that we've got these windows here with an alpha value. Now if you don't select receive transparent, it won't receive any lighting from outdoors. So you won't get any light that passes through the glass. It won't hit it unless you check receive transparent. So if you can't work out why the indoors is completely black, that's the reason. Make sure you do that. The other material I've got here is this this sort of, where is it? This one down here. You've got this sort of a block here, which is just, towards the end of the building. I'm just going to make that a nice dark brown color. So I'll just make that maybe about there. Looks pretty good. It's also, I've just made this middle part here down the building that same material. The other thing here is we've got these pillars. Now one thing I'll show you just briefly with this material, ambient occlusion basically makes it so that when an object meets another object, it produces like dark shading, which looks very realistic. Now if you left it as it is at the moment, it would look pretty unrealistic because it just sort of reaches that and it's just very harsh. There's no shading, there's no sort of anything like that. Now I don't want to enable ambient occlusion because it renders like a bitch, so I'm going to fake that really easily. Now this is something I do a lot in my scenes. If any of you guys have pulled them apart, you might have seen this. But I'm going to enable a texture. I'm going to set the texture type to blend. I'm going to set the blend progression to vertical, or whatever that is. Yeah, vertical. And I'm going to set the enable color ramp. And if you just watch this material box up here, you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to set this color here to black. Okay, so you can see there in the material there what I've done. Basically, it's then going to start at the top, and as it gets towards the bottom there, just in this bottom part, it's going to have a little bit of a dark shading. I'm going to set the color to 0.6, just so that it's a little bit opaque, so it's not completely black. And yeah, that'll basically just add a lot of realism to your scene, just by doing that one little simple thing. So just a quick little tip I'd share with you. One thing you do need to do is enable, you need to unwrap it. UV unwrap it. I'll do this really quickly just by going into the UV image editor and select project from view, and then basically just scale that up till it's just going from the bottom of that little grid map there just to the top there, like so. And then in this texture options, set the mapping to UV. Very simple, just a little trick there that adds a little bit of extra realism to your scene. I thought you guys might like that. Okay, so the other thing we've just got some simple light bulbs here. For that, really simple, just set the emit value to 1. I've used that same material just over here on this sign here for this little fake wavefront logo. I'm also going to set it for this little box here, which contains their little logo symbol. I'll set the emit value for that to 1 as well. Okay, so that's pretty simple. Let's move on to the lighting now. Now, normally for a sun, if you've got a sun in your scene, for outdoor lighting, you'd select sun. Not in this case. I'm going to select spot. Okay. Now, the reason for that is if you have a look at the finished render, you can see that it's bright up here and then it stops about there and there's no more sunlight. The reason for that is if you have a look at this background that I've used, it's a sunset. So chances are the sun, I'm guessing, is somewhere over on the left-hand side of the scene, and it's just peeking over the mountains. So by having a spot lamp there, so that it fades out about there, you're sort of imitating the look of a sun that's peeking over the mountains. So that's why I've used a spot lamp. If you don't have this particular scene and it's fully outdoors, then please use a sun lamp instead. So I'm going to just set this to about there. Give the size maybe something like that. Okay, that's looking pretty good. And then I'm just going to just change the color of it to a, let's say, just sort of like a darky, I don't know, something like this. That's a bit too brown. But you just want to give it sort of the same color as what the background is. So I happen to know the exact values of this, but you can just use an eyedropper or whatever just to get that. I'm going to set the energy for that to 8 as well, okay, just to give it a sort of a bright color. And again, you can sort of tilt this, but I basically just want this lamp just going about halfway up the building, like so. I'm also going to enable ray tracing shadows, and it's important to check the soft size. I'm going to set the soft size to 4 and increase the samples to 6. That just sort of makes the shadows that appear indoors in the building just a little less sharp and a little more realistic overall. So it's a little quick tip. Now the other thing you need to enable is a sky lamp. Okay, so select sun there for this. Now a sky lamp is important because basically if it's light where you are right now, if you look out the window, you'll see that there's sunlight, but if you also look in the shadows, you'll see that the shadows have a slightly blue tint to them. Now that is the sky being reflected onto the ground. Now this is a little tip I learnt in the Digital Lighting and Rendering book by Jeremy Byrne. If you want to read that, it's a really great book. But basically any outdoor scene needs a sky lamp, okay? So you do this really easy. Just set this to a really low amount, say 0.3 like that. And I'm going to give this a blue color, something like this. Let's see, maybe just, I happen to know the values for this as well. Like 35, something like that. Okay, something like that. Giving the same ray tracing shadows, spot lamp, sample 6. And you can see that I've just basically made it at like a 90-degree angle to the sun. That's so that all the shadows have a blue tint to them. Okay, so that's a pretty easy lamp setup there. Now the other thing I'm going to do is enable some bounce lighting. Now to do this, I'm going to duplicate that sun lamp. I'm going to place it underneath. And I'm going to point it upwards. Now the point of bounce lighting is to imitate the look of light that is being reflected off another object. Because basically, if you have a look at this scene here, you've got the balconies sticking out, right? Now, currently you've got 2 lamps that are above the scene. So basically, if you rendered this, you wouldn't see any lighting underneath those balconies. They'd be completely pitch black, which of course doesn't look very realistic at all. So having that bounce lighting there shining upwards imitates the look of the light bouncing off the balcony floor and onto the little roof thing above it. So I'm going to set the amount for this really small to like something like 0.05, like so. And I'm going to give it, just increase this, something like this, 54. Okay, yeah, something like that, just to give it just the same sort of look as like a sky lamp, yeah, but coming up from the ground. And I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to place another one on the other side of the building. That's just so that there's one there and there's one there as well. Other thing, this sky lamp does actually, because you want the sky sort of look to appear on both sides of the building, it should actually make sure it's covering so that it will actually hit this side as well as this side of the building. So sorry, I've just placed it just about there. Okay. Alright, so you've basically now got the outdoor lighting set up. So I'll show you now how to do the indoor lighting. So for this, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to place a cursor there. I'm going to add a point lamp. Okay. And I'm just going to place this lamp inside the building, about there. And let's just pick a floor at random. Let's go about here. Okay. Now the ceiling actually starts about there. I'm going to place the lamp just a little bit underneath it. The reason for that is if you place a lamp directly against a surface, it won't actually reflect onto it, like on the whole surface. So yeah, just having a little bit underneath it gives it a chance just to the light to hit it. I'm going to enable sphere. I'm going to set the distance for this to 5. Okay, so that basically just defines where the light reaches to essentially. I'm going to set the value, the energy value for this to 4, and I'm going to give it a sort of a warm, yellowy look to the lighting, something like that. That looks okay. And yeah, enable ray tracing shadows as well. I'm not going to bother with soft sizes because it's not going to be that obvious to it. Now the other thing, you might want to skip this step if you like, but it's basically just to add a physical lamp, so you can actually see a light bulb. Okay, now, I mean, you can't really see it that well, I mean, unless you zoom in on my scene, that there's actually physical light bulbs in it, so you might want to skip this step entirely. I probably don't think it's that necessary, but I've just added it just for the sake of making it look a little bit more realistic. So yeah, pretty low poly lamp there, and I'm just going to give it a yellow color and a emit value of 1. Okay, then basically you shift, so you've got both the physical light bulb and the lamp there, and then just press Shift D and then just move them about the building like so. And it really is, I mean, that's pretty much all there is to it to get that indoor lighting look, where it looks as though, people are home in the building like that, and you've got, people in the building. Yeah, so that's basically how I did it. I wish there was an easier way. Unfortunately, you can't enable arrays with lamps yet, as far as I know, so you can't actually do a modifier or anything like that to sort of distribute them evenly throughout it. Otherwise, I would do that. So that's, yeah, it's a bit of a pain to have to go through and do all that for all the floors, But it does look better because it's more random, and you've got parts that are black, indoors, and parts that people are home, things like that. So yeah, just spend a bit of time doing that. It does take a while. And I'm going to assume you've now done that. So there you go. This is the sort of lamps that I've got here. I've also got some bigger lamps just on the indoors of that little entrance area there, and I've also got some street lamps there. Yeah, it's not really part of architecture or anything like that, but if you want to get those values, by all means download the finished.blend for this tutorial and you can have a look at them. Alright, so once you've done that, basically it's just a matter of adding the background. Okay, now for this I'm going to add a plane. Okay, you might be wondering why I'm doing it like this, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this plane in the background here, and that is what the background image is going to be on. Yeah, so normally you would just basically add this in the world settings as a texture. However, I found that this area here where the fence is, there's that piece of glass there, it wasn't actually becoming transparent, and you couldn't actually see the image behind it, the background image. It just wasn't showing through. I'm not sure if that is a bug in Blender or if it's something that I overlooked, but it wasn't working, and this was a workaround that I found. So I basically just having that plane in the background there behind everything else. I'm going to quickly UV unwrap it very quickly so you guys don't get too bored. Project from view, and now the image that I'm going to be using, this is a sky image that I pulled off cgtextures.com. You guys, hope you're familiar with that website by now. Great website for CG textures. And then just UV mapping this very quickly like so. The plus side of having it as a plane in the background is that you can actually position it just so that it basically starts, where the balcony is like that. You can have the whole background image there, which is kind of cool. Now for the materials, I'm just going to enable shadeless, and I'm just going to add that image into the texture options. A lot of people wonder why their texture, like if they UV image unwrap something, it doesn't automatically apply to the materials. You do need to go in here and add it as a texture. So for those of you new with Blender, wondering what's happening there, yeah, you need to enable it in the material options. Okay, so you've done that now. Now the only other thing that we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of compositing. The reason for that is if you have a look at my finished image here, these lamps down here at the bottom, they've got a little bit of a glow to them. So that is obviously, it's done in the compositor. So what I need to do is basically move those lights onto a separate render layer. Okay, so first thing you need to do is move them to a separate layer within Blender. So I've already done that. So they're already now on another layer. And they've all got that emit value of 1, so they appear quite bright. Okay, so once you've done that, you then need to move it into a separate render layer. Now by default, you can access this in the render panel here. There's one render layer. So press the plus button there to add a new render layer and call it lights. And you need to select the layer which the light objects are on. So in this case, it's render layer number 5 there. So you've got these physical light objects are on layer 5. And then in the default render scene options there, deselect the layer with the lights on it, which is layer 5 there. So basically you now have got everything else in the scene on now as one separate render layer, and the lights as now a separate isolated render layer. So you can now apply glow and things just to these objects without it affecting the rest of the scene. The only thing you need to do is just disable sky in the lights render layer there, basically that makes sure the sky doesn't show up and glow and blur everything in the scene. Oh, which reminds me, I should say this. If we bring back the scene here. So we do have that background there, the background image. That's just so that it shows up for the camera. But you do need to add it into the world options as well. So just go to click world, texture, image, and then basically just add that same skies image, and then select horizon in the influence panel. And then in the world panel, select paper sky. Now the reason for that is so that all the glass that you've got in your scene actually reflects the world, which is that sky image. Otherwise it would just reflect a black color and it wouldn't look right. So you've got the world settings just for the glass objects, and you've got this plane here so that it shows up for the camera. Yeah, a little bit of a crazy workaround there, but that's the way I did it. Okay, so now you've done that, you can now render it, and let's see what it looks like. Okay, perfect. So this is the finished result that I've got there with those settings. So all we need to do now is basically apply the glow settings to the lights at the bottom of the scene here. So first to do that, go to the compositor. Now the easiest way to do that is to press Control left arrow. And basically what you've got there is something that probably looks a little bit like this. So what you need to do is we've got the default scene there with the building and things like that. We just need to add a new render layer. And in the drop down box there, just select lights, okay? And then if you just add a output viewer node there, you can just see that basically the that render layer just has our lights on it right there, okay? So to apply a glow effect, those of you that have read the Wow Factor or have been following my tutorials probably know you add a blur node. Let's just add a view out node so we can see what's going on. And I'm basically just going to make this fast Gaussian blur type. Give it a 20 value there. So you've now got it, it's all blurred. And I'm also going to give it a glare effect, just so you've got sort of like a star sort of glare around it. So to do that, add a glare node. Let's just connect this to the viewer node so we can see what it does. I'm going to set the threshold for that down to a 0. And let's just make the number of streaks, let's say 6, just see how that looks. Okay, pretty good. All right, now you might want to maybe just increase the threshold a little bit, just so it's not quite as bright. But yeah, it depends on what sort of look you want to go for. And then basically to apply that glow and the glare node together, add a mix node, select screen as the type, and just combine those two together and set the FAC value to 1, okay? And then if you just have a look at the viewer output from that, You've then got a glow effect with the star there. Actually, one other thing, I might set the mix value for that down to 0 so that you don't actually, mix value to 1 so that you don't actually see the actual object, the actual light object. Otherwise, it'll be applying it twice. Okay, so then I'm just going to add a mix node like so. And I'm just going to combine this with the original light layer. I'm going to set that amount to 1 and set the type to screen. So if this is going a little bit too fast for you, you can have a look at the setup that I used in the finish.blend. And then basically add another mix node, so duplicate that one. And then we're basically going to combine that with the original render layer like so. So you've then got the building, and it's been combined with this glow effect, like so. So there you go. That is basically the finished result that you can see there in front of you. So as you can see, just by applying some really quick and easy modeling methods using arrays and mirrors and things like that, you can quickly model a building, and then applying some very, very basic materials, some basic outdoor lighting and indoor lighting, you can create very quickly a result that you can then send to a client or archivist, things like that. But that's all from me. I hope you enjoyed this 2-part tutorial series, and thanks very much for watching.